Hello students, let us continue with the chapter Why Do We Fall Ill? In this video, we shall be starting with infectious agents. Now what are these infectious agents? Infectious agents are otherwise known as pathogens or disease-causing microorganisms. These come under various categories, that is bacteria, viruses, fungi, protozoans and worms. Bacteria and protozoans are usually unicellular. Worms are multicellular. Fungi, some are unicellular while the others are multicellular. Viruses, they cannot be categorized either in living or non-living. They come in between because they do not have a cell membrane. Since they do not have a cell membrane, they do not show any signs of life when they are outside the body of the host. Only when they enter into the body of the host, they show signs of life. They capture the mechanism of the host and then they start multiplying. Now let us see one by one the different types of infectious agents and a few examples of diseases caused by them. First of all, peptic ulcer. Peptic ulcer is a disease caused by a bacteria known as Helicobacter pylori. This was discovered by Robin Warren and Barry Marshall. They did a lot of studies to find out the causative agent of this disease, that is peptic ulcer. And they came to a conclusion that this disease could be treated easily by a few doses of antibiotics. So it was no longer a chronic disease. Next, what is SARS? SARS means severe acute respiratory syndrome. Severe acute respiratory syndrome. It affects the lungs. It is caused by SARS virus. A few years back, this erupted in China and it caused the death of many people. It is an airborne disease. Next, acne and pimples. Acne and pimples are formed by a bacteria known as Staphylococci. And sleeping sickness. This is caused due to a protozoan known as trypanosoma. While leishmania causes a disease known as Kala ulcer. Leishmania is another protozoan which causes the disease Kala ulcer or black fever. Ascaris is a type of worm which is found usually in the small intestine and it causes the disease ascariasis. So these are the few diseases. Apart from that, we know corona, it is caused, corona or we say COVID-19 is caused by coronavirus. Then there are other examples of disease such as Nipah, which is caused by the Nipah virus. So various types of diseases. Let us see the examples of a few other. That is, diseases such as common cold, influenza, dengue and AIDS. These are all caused by viruses. When we talk about AIDS, the full form is acquired immune deficiency syndrome. Now diseases like typhoid, cholera, tuberculosis are all caused due to bacteria. Many common skin diseases are caused due to fungi. Diseases caused due to protozoans are malaria, sleeping sickness and Kala Azar. Then there are many worms that are found in our intestine. For example, the tapeworm, the roundworm, the filarial worm which causes elephantiasis or filaria, etc. Now, why is it important that we think that these categories of infectious agents? The answer is that these categories are important factors in deciding what kind of treatment to use. It is very important to know what is the immediate cause. Only when we know the immediate cause, we can find the solution or we can find the mode of treatment. Members of each one of these groups, that is viruses, bacteria and so on, have many biological characteristics in common. All viruses, for example, live inside the host cells, while bacteria rarely do. Viruses and bacteria and fungi, virus, bacteria and fungi, they multiply very fast. But worms, they do not multiply fast. In comparison to the others, that is the bacteria, virus and fungi, worms, they do not multiply so fast. Now, all bacteria are closely related to each other than to the viruses and vice versa. This means that there are many important life processes that are similar in bacteria group but are not shared by the virus group. As a result, drugs that block one of these life processes in one member of the group is likely to be effective against many other members of that group. But the same drug will not work against a microbe belonging to a different group. Therefore, we can say that the medicines that can be used to kill bacteria is not effective for viruses. Let us see the example. Let us take an example of the antibiotics. See, the bacteria, the different types of bacteria, they have a common biochemical pathway. And biochemical pathways are important for bacteria. Many bacteria, for example, make a cell wall. This is to protect themselves. The antibiotic penicillin blocks the bacteria from this process, that is the building of walls. So when this process is blocked, the bacteria is naturally killed or it causes the death of the bacteria. But at the same time, it does not affect human cells because human cells don't make cell walls. And penicillin will have the effect on any bacteria that uses this same process of building walls. Similarly, any antibiotic works against many species of bacteria rather than simply working against one. Or we can say we can use one particular drug against all the group of bacteria which have the common biological process or common biochemical process or biochemical pathway. One antibiotic is effective for many groups of bacteria which have a common characteristics, or in that we can say in simple words. But viruses, they do not use these biochemical pathways. This is the reason why antibiotics are not effective against viruses. So, if we have a common cold and if we take antibiotics, it is actually of no use. It does not reduce the severity of the disease, neither does it reduce the duration. However, if we get a bacterial infection along with this, then the antibiotics will help. Even then, the antibiotic will work only against the bacterial part of the infection and not on the viral infection. Next, let us see the means of spread. How this can spread? Which are the different means of spread? The first one we can say is, it is through air. Diseases such as tuberculosis, common cold, influenza, chickenpox, all these spread through air. So they are known as airborne diseases. And especially this happens due to sneeze and cough. These droplets are spread through the air. And even the coronavirus. Nowadays, doctors are saying that it can spread. There is no proof, but still they say that it can spread through air. So, the means of spread can be through, for some diseases, the means of spread can be through air. Now, if it is an airborne disease, living in crowded conditions is more likely to spread an airborne disease. Air transmitted diseases are easier to catch the closer we are to the infected person. However, in closed areas, the droplet nuclei recirculate and pose a risk to everybody. Overcrowded and poorly ventilated housing is therefore a major factor in the spread of these airborne diseases. Diseases can be also spread through water. Such diseases are known as waterborne diseases. For example, cholera, jaundice, etc. In such cases, if a person has an infectious gut, then the excreta gets mixed up with drinking water and the infectious agent is spread through water. Such diseases are known as waterborne diseases. So we have studied about airborne diseases. Next, waterborne diseases. Now, if we eat spoiled food, so we can be sick, especially in case of food poisoning. Therefore, the disease is spread through food. So, diseases can spread through air, that is airborne disease. Diseases that spread through water, waterborne diseases. Diseases can spread also through food, spoiled food. Diseases can spread through direct contact, especially sexual contact. Diseases such as AIDS, syphilis, gonorrhea, warts, all these are STDs, that is sexually transmitted diseases. AIDS and warts, 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 these two are caused due to viruses, while syphilis and gonorrhea are caused due to bacteria. All these are caused due to sexual contact, that or else we can say direct contact. Diseases also spread through indirect contact, that is through the utensils of the used by the infected person, or through the articles used by the infected person, or the clothes used by the infected person. These are all indirect methods. Common cold, chicken pox, corona, all these can be caused by examples for indirect contact. Diseases can also spread through vectors or carriers. These vectors and carriers are insects or animals which carry the actual causative agent and cause diseases. Now, in case of rabies, dogs are the carriers. Mosquitoes are the most well-known infectious agents, and they are carriers. They are the best known vectors or carriers, or we can say they are the commonest vectors. There are many species of mosquitoes. The female needs highly nutritious blood in the form of highly nutritious food in the form of blood in order to be able to mature its eggs. Mosquitoes, they feed on many warm-blooded animals including humans, and they transfer the diseases from person to person. Now coming back to AIDS. AIDS is not caused due to any casual physical contacts like handshake or giving a hug. It is only caused due to sexual contact, or it can be caused due to blood transfusion, infected blood transfusion, or from the infected mother to the baby, or through breastfeeding by the mother, infected mother to the baby, or using infected syringes, needles, and infected surgical tools. By all these methods, AIDS can spread from one person to another. Now, organ-specific and tissue-specific manifestations. Let us see what is that. Disease-causing microbes enter the body through different means. And where do they go then? The body is very large when compared to the microbes. So, there are many possible places, organs or tissues, where they could go. Do all microbes go to the same tissue or organ, or do they go to different places? Let us see one by one. If the pathogen enters from the air, the entry is from the air, it is through the nose, and it is likely to go into the lungs. This is especially seen in the case of tuberculosis. The bacteria, it is present in the air and it enters through the nose and affects the lungs. If they enter through the mouth, they stay in the gut lining, like in the case of typhoid causing bacteria. They can also go to the liver, like in the case of viruses that cause jaundice. But in the case of HIV, they come into the body through sexual organs and they spread to the lymph nodes all over the body. But in the case of malaria, this causative agent, that is plasmodium, enters into the blood through mosquito bite. and it goes to the liver and RBCs. The virus that caused Japanese encephalitis or brain fever, it will also enter by mosquito bite and goes to the brain. The signs and symptoms of disease will be thus depend on the tissues or organ in which the microbe targets. If the lungs are the targets, then the symptom will be cough, wheezing, sneezing, breathlessness, etc. Now if liver is targeted, then it is jaundice. And if brain is targeted, then we have vomiting, nausea, unconsciousness, headache, etc. In addition to these tissue-specific effects of infectious diseases, an active immune system recruits many cells to the affected area so that it can kill the disease-causing microbes. This recruitment process is known as inflammation. And as a part of this process, there are some local effects such as swelling, pain, and general effects such as fever. In some cases, the tissue specificity of the infection leads to very general seeming effects. This is in the case of AIDS. Now what happens there? HIV infection, it affects the immune system. So as a result, it damages the function of the immune system. And many of the effects that the body, it affects the body mainly because it cannot fight any kind of disease. It affects the immune system. Even therefore what happens, even the minor infection that we face every day becomes fatal. So if a person has a small common cold, it may become pneumonia. Or if a person has a minor gut infection, it may result in a serious case such as diarrhea with blood loss, and it may become fatal. It is also important to remember that the severity of disease depends on the number of microbes present in the body. If the number of microbes are more, the severity of the disease is more. And if the number of microbes is less, the severity is less. If we have a very strong immune system, the severity will be less because it does not allow that many of microbes to enter our body. But if our immune system is weak, the severity of the disease will also be more because more number of microbes get a chance to enter our body. With that, we have come to the end of today's session.